Let's get started with the test. So, all right. So let's start the test. Great. So I'll start with checking for what is the format of the paper and if there are any surprises for me in it. So this is the first passage. This four questions for passage one. Then okay, 5 questions of passage two. I have got 4 questions of passage three. And okay, so there are three passages. All right, and then we have got the summary questions followed by odd one out and ordering of the paragraph. Sure. So I think we are good to go with the first question itself. All right. So I'll start reading what's there in for me, and I'll try to record the important points I get with time. It is too soon for an account of the global economic crisis, but Niall Ferguson's publishers may be quietly grateful for the recent unpleasantness that will boost sales remains to be seen. Still, few are as well equipped as Ferguson, one of the most numerate, economically literate organizations working today to explain the rise and fall of modern financial system. Okay, he explained something. At 44, Ferguson is already perhaps the most accomplished historian generation. Abrash, telegenic and media savvy Scotsman, Ferguson is as comfortable in front of the camera. He has presented a number of television documentaries as he is with the Arcana for economic history. He is a number cruncher, works with charts, graphs, and tables, but his prose is readable, fluent, even brisk. In his several books, he has tackled the very biggest themes of history, war and money. 2027 News looks back to the grand synthesizing tradition of Macaulay. He works in broad strokes, but his arguments are backed up by cutting-edge economic research and almost bewildering array of data, and is not afraid to cause a strain. Great. Like in impish, if clever schoolboy, for instance, seems to take delight in overturning conventional wisdom in the beauty of war, a progressive study of the First World, he argued that Britain, not Germany, turned a regional crisis into the Balkans. In the crisis in the Balkans, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo into a global ecosystem. Okay, British was responsible according to him. Ferguson, noting that Germany is now Europe's dominant power, argued that Britain had set out the war and let Kaiser win. Let Kaiser win. Continental Europe could therefore have been transformed into something not continental Europe could therefore have been transformed into something not wholly unlike European Union as we know today. Ferguson likes to ponder alternative historical scenarios, even edited a collection of essays on counterfactual history, but this particular proposition struck many of his critics as ludicrous. Okay, the cause for which he may now be best known is known less controversial, and okay, this was unstinting defense of the British Empire. Okay, he defends British Empire. But Ferguson's claims about British imperialism are not merely nostalgia. He has a serious argument to make about the role of empires in the expansion of global capital. Okay, being an economic expected. For Ferguson, the British Empire was largely a first world organization. History has done more to promote the free movement of goods, capital, and labor than the British Empire in the 19th and 20th century. He wrote in 2003 book Empire How Britain Made the Modern World. Ferguson said the United States is the rightful heir to Britain's role as a tribune of Anglo-Balization, but remains an empire in denial. Okay, okay. United States is the heir and remains an empire in denial. Ferguson supported the Iraq war but has criticized the occupation. Not surprisingly, such notions earned Ferguson the scorn of post-colonial studies crowd. One British academic called the historian the Leni Riefenstahl of George Bush's new imperial order. Okay, Ferguson's historiography tends to discount the role of independence movements and colonial revolts in the empire's demise. Britain lost empires, argues Ferguson argues, because it lacked the will to maintain it. Okay, the Paris Agreement was undone by understress, not by overstress. Okay, Britain, he contends, failed to ponder present a convincing threat, a larger army to deter German ambitions, and thus had to fight two enormously costly wars conflicts that drastically accelerated imperial decline. Okay, deterrence was the far cheaper option. In his most recent book, the Word of the War of the World, Ferguson suggested that Britain could have crushed the Wehrmacht by launching a preemptive strike against Hitler's unmanned armies in 1938. Okay, they could have defended. Ferguson does not excuse the brutalities of imperialism so much as he looks past them. He tends to view the empire as a giant balance sheet, where others see exploitation, where Ferguson sees investment opportunity and capital inflows. However, for origin with cash fundraising, Ferguson is not an economic determinist. Money as he sees it does does not make the world go around, though it certainly helps it spin. Okay, in his account, The Rise of Finance, the development of increasingly sophisticated instruments to multiply money accompanied the ambitions of modern states for territorial expansion. The institution of modern economic life, a strong central bank to print and manage currency, but fiscal policy, stocks and bond markets emerging in the 17th and 18th centuries to make it possible for revenue-hungry states to wage war. An idea Ferguson outlined in his densest, most theoretical work, The Cash Nexus, a study of money and power in the modern world. Okay, so now let's take a look at the first question. According to the author of the passage, the recent emphasis is welcome because of which of the following? Okay, so it is welcome. I think it was in the first paragraph. Foundation very quite grateful. Foundation the reason unpleasant is welcome. Okay. Mm, got it. So it is here they are talking about the unpleasantness being grateful. So it is because of thanks to the recent let's try to eliminate the option. Thanks to the recent unpleasantness, the global economy has now been exposed to forefront. No, this he does not really talk about exposing anything because Ferguson is the best and economically most literate of no, no. The it is the concern for the publishers that we are discussing here. The reason and percent is welcome because it will help in increasing sales. Now, it is whether it will boost sales remains to be seen. The reason and percent explains the rise and fall of the modern financial system. Now, this is something beneficial for the publishers. So, this would be answer. I'll quickly move on to the next question. According passages of the following reasons will help support the claim that Ferguson is the most accomplished historian. This can said the second paragraph talks about it. Um, Comfortable in front of camera, so definitely this option is correct. History, then yeah, data. This is something again he had mentioned. He are backed by cutting edge economic research and almost building arrow data. Now two options are correct. I'll quickly take the now the yeah. So D is the answer. No need to check the third option. The third question. Ferguson seems to attack the conventional wisdom and pity of war. Um, and then what do you mean the option provides the correct estimate to his aggressive thought process. Okay. Many mentioned that Germany is dominating Europe's power in the society. It is correct. He has said Germany is the leading power. It was somewhere here. British negligence in the first order. That's correct. It was the British themselves that had let the empire go down. It has been mentioned. It has been mentioned in this paragraph. Right. Okay. The possibility of containment of Sarajevo conflict. Yeah, he clearly mentions this could have been contained, turned a regional crisis into the Balkans. Okay, low potency. And this is Germany is now dominant power. So again, this is correct. Now two are clearly correct. I need not bother about the rest. So all of the above are correct. From the passage of the following options can definitely be inferred. Because all said and done at the end of the film, can be a British mouthpiece? No, no, he's not British mouthpiece. Offensive, no, but he is in fact supportful of the British. This against goes against the spirit. British imperialism seriously content? No. In regards to expansion of global capital, has an optimistic feel. Now, this seems to be answered. He has mentioned somewhere here. No organization in history has done more to promote the free movement of goods and capital than the British in the 19th and 20th centuries. Now, this is correct. I'll move to the next one. Now, this is the last question of this one. Which of the following can be considered as a reason for the decline? Refusal of empire to stay within the no, he had said they could not maintain it. Lack of support of a bigger army. This seems correct. Let's read the others. Let down in putting of Germany, incapability to judge the reach of the argument, reach of the Germans. No, these two seem correct, but this is the broader option out of this one. Now, this might be result of the third option, might be result of the second option, but in converse can't be true. So we'll take this bigger bucket here, and I think it is somewhere here that he has mentioned about. Uh, he mentions about the lack of a bigger army. Lack of bigger army has been mentioned in the second paragraph itself. So start out the war because that they will, yeah, he yeah, they failed to have a larger army to deter German ambition. Got it. So this answer would be B. We are good to go. Next, move on to the next one. Second passage goes like, we live in a distinct moment of the history of a species. We have to make conscious about such an outside. Okay. While resource extraction proceeds apace, advances in biotechnology and travel, some the mass production, aggregation, within the reproduction, consider profit to artificial scarcity, metal survey at plant and animal diversity, while poisoning the world with chemical inputs and toxic by accumulation of most major poison ensure that those of us on the top of the food chain. Now this is a concept. Without the fulfillment of overdeveloped industrial networks. Of course, settled agriculture has always made possible in the extractive logic of surplus on which human animals control over food, the most vital means of reproduction, has saved human society from anything else. This is why the politics of food has long been at the heart of poor people's movement. Sustainability to be sure is a term so overused in discussion of food and national system that it is difficult to recover a core meaning. Okay. Third development is now sustainable. Petrochemical expand. Now these are very examples. Are sustainable timber harvest, are sustainable. Perhaps human societies will never be able to maintain a purely and endlessly balanced relation between the natural world. Still, clearly there are far better balances to be struck than our current system, so radically out of whack that we indeed do not have lost all conception of our daily bread as the staff of life. Indeed, we highly purchase highly processed and almost unrecognizable food products molded and packaged in a bewildering variety of shapes, colors, and sizes, retailed through mass corporate industrial supermarkets and fast food chains. Okay, the anarchist community has done a better job than most political groups in placing food close to our hearts, probably thanks to a strong infusion of environmental activities and social ecology into the anarchist rank and file since the 1960s, or perhaps anarchists just love to eat. Okay, at the same time, vegetarianism, veganism, and bio-regionalism have made important inroads within the anarchist community, forcing us to confront our individual choices about food and to act with greater degrees of responsibility. In many ways, the intense personal focus of these varied eating commitments made them physically live for absorption into anarchist policies of politics, a politics that, like the feminism, recognize that the person is indeed political. Okay. Yet the limitation of these rights have become increasingly evident and mirror the limitation of anarchist politics more generally. While no one should denigrate people's lifestyle choices, there is a real necessity to move forward with a synthetic political agenda that brings together personal choices with broader activities commitments. Merely being vegan is not enough, not even close. In fact, strict and orthodox moral commitments to a particular diet may actually contribute to responsible ecological food choices. Using cane sugar as a sweetener, for example, instead of locally produced honey, eating mass produced and packaged eggs replaces produced 2,000 miles away. Instead of a free range egg gathered within shouting distance, refusing to eat a fish caught from nearby stream while having no cause about motoring to the Taco Bell drive-thru for corporate vegan burritos, moral orthodoxy within religious or dietary conventions shut down more steady and complex understanding of the world around us. Okay. Now this was a bit tricky paragraph, but I think I'm good. I think it took about 3 minutes to read. Now that should be the ideal time. That we should target. Now move on to the questions. According to passage, bioaccumulation is worry for humans. Okay, this is a worry for humans because humans are responsible for the birth of this problem, and not only and they can get rid of it totally. Now this is not a worry at all. First option totally eliminated. Second, keeping in mind the food chain systems at top of it, maximum toxins would be accumulated till the idea climate reaches top. Now this seems correct. I think this one is mentioned. Yeah, by accumulation of most major toxins ensure that those of us on the top. Now this sentence gives more or less. Let's just go through their options for safety. Given that humans are at the top of the food, they are in total control. No, this is not a very out of all species. Clearly, humans are the most intelligent. Now it doesn't talk about intelligence. Now this seems to be correct answer. Let's quickly move on to the next one. Now moving on to the seventh question. If we were to assign a word to the effect that the author is trying to portray the Taco Bell example, what would it be? Now, Taco Bell example is in last paragraph we just read. Now this is mentioned here. Refusing to eat a fish caught from nearby stream while having no qualms about motoring through a Taco Bell drive-through. Okay, yeah. Now this is the typical example of an irony. Let's see the options. Yeah, first option is irony. I'll mark this one. Let's anyways see the other options. Content. No, he is not denigratory or being content to about the people. Now he's just pointing out the irony that people would eat a processed fish in a Taco Bell drive-through, but they won't eat a fish that has been caught from a nearby stream. Not he's just trying to portray the irony. Introspective, no, this is not an introspection. He's not being thoughtful, and no, he's not exposing anything. This is something we already know. He's just trying to point out the irony of the situation. Now this would be the answer. Moving on to the eighth question. With respect to the way we eat, according to the author, what is really important? Getting rid of any moral issues? No. He this is nowhere mentioned. Being able to eat in a community by spreading love. No, he does not talk about spreading love. He has mentioned something about the love for food. I think in the third paragraph, we is enjoying the food and eating for the love of it. Now this seems correct. This is, I guess, by have yeah, or perhaps anarchists just love to eat. Now he's shown the importance of these anarchists into the politics and they love to eat. This could be an answer. And you read the fourth option, being able to switch to a healthy food lifestyle. No, he does not talk about switching to a healthy food lifestyle. He tells about the irony of certain situation, but he does not want to push a healthy lifestyle as such. So this would be the answer. Moving on, ninth question. Which of the following statements will help strengthen or strengthen the author's viewpoints expressed in the passage? Morality does not follow the principle of one size fits all. It is based on individual interpretation. Now, this is a very generic kind of statement. He is not really talking about such kind of philosophies. Only the educated fewer can relate and utilize the concept of morality. No, no. This is a very generic statement again. We cannot enjoy the real joys of life because of moral orthodoxy. This seems somewhere line. I'm not very sure. Still, I'll read the next one. Our broader understanding of the word is restricted. Thanks to the concept of moral. Now, this is, I think, the exact around similar thought in the last line. Moral orthodoxy, whether in religious or dietary conviction, shuts down more studied and complex understanding of the world around us. Now, this is the exact same idea. So, I've been able to eliminate the first two options clearly. They were very generic statements, not at all mentioned in the paragraph, and this was one not very sure about. So, I in among these two, I chose this one option, last option, since the idea is conveyed in the last sentence. I'll move to the next question. Now, this is the third paragraph, and I have got 20 minutes. I think I should try to complete this one in again 3 minutes, and be completed by 14 minutes. This passage. So I'll read it from here. Isabellin argued in the Hedgehog and the Fox that some people were hedgehog knew only one thing while others fox knew many things in the sense for better. Often Americans are hedgehogs and Americans are foxes. Okay. Unlike in Europe, where historically there has been a viable mix of competing ideology, Americans have only one ideology derived from the political philosophy of Thomas Hobbes. Okay. Although any political theory is highly intricate and nuanced, as a generalized argument, it can be safely posited that America is a Hobbesian nation. Further, since for the Americans they are essentially Hobbesian, gestalt is considered to be common sense. They are not really conscious of the role Hobbes play in their life. Deeply cultured American Hobbesianism affects all aspects of American life. Okay, essentially Hobbes argues that human beings are autonomous self-interested entities always to be in competition and collision with each other as they compete in a world of perpetual scarcity. I'll reread this. I'm a bit confused. Essentially, Hobbes argues that human beings are autonomous, self-interested entities, always to be in comparison and collision with each other as they compete in a world of perpetual scarcity. Okay, others are to be used to get what one wants, or else they are to be eliminated or bypassed as obstacles, particularly in the pre-governmental state of nature. Any real interpersonal empathetic community is impossible. Okay, any community is impossible. Since everyone is out to get you, it is in your national self-interest to create a government that will put a lid on interpersonal warfare. This government will have the exclusive right to use the physical force and establish the rules for daily conduct, which after the creation of the stable is now to be restricted essentially to socio-economic struggle. Okay, everyone will still be out to get you, but now at least they won't be able to kill you to get what you have, at least in theory. Okay, uh, the catch was that this government Leviathan would have to be a dictatorship without any limiting safeguards, otherwise it would not be able to would have to be dictatorship without any, otherwise it would not be able to keep everybody's wishes, warning egos in check. Locke did not believe in that everyone was out to get you, but that there would be always some people who would try to harm you. A government was still definitely needed to maintain order and protect you, but since this government was as well as your neighbors could also act to deprive you of your rights, life, liberty, property, it could be best if this government were democratic so that people could remove if it trampled their God-given formula. Okay, this is an extension of Locke Hobbesian idea, but Locke, one might say, is in the end only a nicer version of Hobbes. Okay, like Hobbes, he also presumed self-interest to be foundational. For Locke, as for Hobbes, the individual, not the community, is primal. Okay. However, Locke assumed that most people would restrain their self-interest, submitting to the restricting influence of the church, family, neighbor, and so on. Should these institutions, however, no longer provide such restraint, then Locke would really be left with Hobbes' war of all against all. Okay, a Lockean social political arrangement then is always perilously close to reverting to the Hobbesian roots of liberal social institutions if self-restraint should weaken. Okay, this society could go back to Hobbesian roots. Although the American founding fathers knew their Hobbes well, as Hofstadter and others have made it clear, they adopted more optimistic Locke as the principal theorist of the revolutionary democratic experiment. The founders established an America that is primarily Lockean in terms of its governmental structure. However, unlike Europe, Hobbesian Lockean individualism brought to America by the first British settlers have never had to compete with countervailing socio-political paradigms. Okay, got it. So now let's go to the questions. We have got 16 minutes. We should try to wrap this a bit quickly. Which of the following options are in sync with the author's viewpoint in regard to USA? USA. It is pretending to be a hedgehog when it actually is a fox. No, it does not pretend. The country is upset with the idea of Hobbesian Lockean scheme of things that in real sense the country can be put in the category of off. Now, this option seems correct. I still read others. It is a country that has been fixated on a single idea. The same cannot work in the long run. Now, in fact, he was talking a bit converse. Now, this option is negated, eliminated clearly. It is a country that is forced to adopt the Lockean idealism even though it believes in contrasting viewpoints. No, they don't believe in contrasting viewpoints. So this option seems correct. I'll quickly choose this one and move on. With respect to the dilemma of man and his relation with the arguments of the following options will strengthen the difference between Locke and Hobbes. Now, views are contrasting in nature because Locke only considered the government to be enemy while Hobbes considered men as enemies. No, only government was not enemy. This is the wrong one. Locke believing the absolute power of the government, whereas Hobbes considered people supporting the government. No, it it was Hobbes who wanted absolute power for the government. Hobbes believed that there is only a singular threat for people, whereas Locke believed the threat to individual is dual nature. Now this seems correct. He had said from government as well as men is what you fear from. Now this option seems correct. Hobbes was optimistic and believed in eventual goodness of man. No, he did not believe in eventual goodness of man. So option C is correct. We'll move to the next one. We observe blurring of the differences between Hobbes and Locke. Which of the following options lead to these? Because over a period of time in the USA, the Hobbian system is a byproduct of Locke's thoughts. No, from Hobbesian, you flow to the Locke. The main reason is failure of community centers, which lead to dilution of individualistic desires. Okay. Um, I'll quickly try to check this one. What should be the answer? What should we take? Yeah, now seems confusing. Individual displays, irrespective of the support of the family. Okay, the dictatorial nature of Hobbes' principle and their implication in law. Dictatorial nature of Hobbes' principle and their implication in law. No, no. I'm seem to be confused between option B and option C. I'll try to get back to this question later on. I think we should move to the next question in the interest of time. So, which of the following options will help us determine the reason behind Hobbesian liberalism dictatorship? His belief in the concept of freedom, because he believed that only a dictatorial government could function properly. Now, this is the exact same idea that he had pointed out, was that this government would have to be dictatorship without any limiting safeguards, right? Otherwise, you would not be able to keep everybody, not be able to function properly. I think this is the idea given in this line, because government will not help in case of legal laws. No, this is not said, because dictatorship helps in staying in satisfying one and all. No, it does not talk about satisfaction. So option B is correct. What is the central message of the passage? Difference between Locke and Hobbes' viewpoint. Yeah, he has pointed out this, providing reasons why dictatorship should be a preferred mode of government. Now, this is a very one idea of the passage, not the overall theme, highlighting the blurred boundaries between Locke and Hobbes. Again, he has talked about convergence, but this is just one of the ideas. The individual ideologies followed by Locke and Hobbes. Now, these have been explained, but the major objective was to show the difference between these two. So, I'll choose the option A and move to the next question. Okay. So now we get to the question where we have to summarize the different paragraphs. So I'll I'll I think we can go sequentially. I'll prefer going sequentially here. So it will be acknowledged. Okay, yeah, 15 question. Yeah, it will be acknowledged even those by those that practice. It is not the clear. Okay, clear and out dealings is the honor of man's nature, and that mixture of currencies like an in the coin of gold and silver, which may make the metal work better, but it embellish it. For these winding and crooked courses are the goings of the serpent, which go basely upon the belly, and not fact upon and not upon the feet. There is no vice that doth so cover a man with shame as to be found false and perfidious, and therefore the reason why the word of the life should be such a disgrace and such an odious charge is that if it be well witted to say that when a man lies, is as much to say that he is brave towards God and forward towards men, for a lie faces God and shrinks from man. Okay, so I think I've got the gist of the paragraph. I'll take a look and then try to go back to the question if the need be. Lies may be considered to be effective, but they ruin the character of the person lying. This is expressed in terms of fear of God. Now, they're I think effective only in the short run. Yeah, he has talked about. Okay, let's see the other option. Lie ruins. Lie ruins a person character in that they are effective, but the act of lying demeans the liar. Yes, this one mentioned lying is a contradiction, that it means a person is more afraid of others of his nature, but less afraid of God, a superior being who knows everything. Now, this is, I think, the last line exactly almost. Why the word of lie should be such a disgrace and such an odious charge that if they will well weighed, To see data analysis as much to say that he's brave towards God and covered towards man. Okay. I'll read the other options. Light takes up a lot of time. No, he does not talk about time anywhere. I'll straight away reject. Everything has to be answered when it comes to God. Now, this is a very philosophical statement. He does not say everything has to be answered. Option among option A and B. Now, option B conveys more ideas. Option I would have chosen option A if there was no other choice, but given I have a better choice, I'll quickly check this option and move to the 16th question. I've got 9 minutes left. I should rather try to hurry up. So, modernity comes from modo, meaning just now. Modernity is not about modernity is about novelty, the constant debugging of nature into concepts, making or as we say, creating a thingless perceptual afterward. One of these concepts is human equality, from which we can come individualism, the goal of American Constitution. The Constitution has a large-minded liberty of governance that sets limit to contain errors, but sets them widely to give them space. The contrived newness or systematic production of novelty, characteristic of modernity, elevates method over substance and reason over nature. It works well for us in politics, in procedural democracy, which is our political salvation. Still, at least vulnerable to eager beaver intellectuals and academics who want to reform us. Okay, okay. Again, I try to get the gist of it and try to answer from the options now. Modernity emphasizes consistently redefining concepts. In the context of the American Constitution, it makes sense in that this is appropriate in politics, but in other spheres it allows for unnecessary redefinitions. Okay, this seems to be I think aligning the paragraph. Let me take a look at other options. Old concepts need to be reworked on when it comes to modernity. Respect to American Constitution, this works till it gives others a chance to make unnecessary changes. No, no. This seems to be going haywire in terms of the paragraph idea. Modernity is a means to end, but the means become important. The same can be seen with respect to American politics with the concept of procedural democracy is called. No, no, no. He has said modernity comes from meaning just now. Modernity is about novelty, the constant rebringing of nature into concepts, creating a pursuit afterward. Now, this idea is completely missing here. It's talking about means to end. Academics are die-hard believers of modernity, and this is also because of the American Constitution emphasis on it. However, this leads to a lot of problems in the long run. No, again, a core idea is missing. What is meant by the modernity itself? Okay. So these two, I think I can reject straight away. I'll reread first and second option. All concepts need to be reworked on when it comes to modernity. No, I think this is a passive way of representing the idea. Modernity emphasizes consistently redefining concept. This is the exact first idea in the concept of American concept. It makes sense that this is appropriate in politics, but in other states it allows for unnecessary redefinition. Okay, so I think the last line again. It works well for us in politics, in procedural democracy, which is our political salvation. It still leaves us valuable to intellectuals and academics who want to reform us. Okay, so I think the option one it seems more correct than option two. And also, I think this is not very specific. Option two does not mention the uh, benefit in the politics or the other spheres. So I'll go with the option A here. Moving on to 17th. Now this is a except one. I need to choose the odd one out. Okay. So the way I'll do is I'll try to read all of these and try to judge the question from the central idea. Okay. Maybe I think I could also take a look at the 12th question. I might be able to. Yeah, I think I had marked this question. We observe learning of the difference between hops and logs. Which of the following options lead to these? Okay, so this option we had rejected anyways, first option. And again, last option we had rejected. We were confused in between B and C. C option is individual despairs irrespective of the support of the family. Okay, no, no, no. Okay, so log had mentioned that if they are in community, they won't do as much harm, but there would be some people who would try to harm you. Okay, I think yeah, yeah. Locke assumed that most people would restrain their self-interest, submitting to the decision influence of the search and neighborhood and so on. So he talks about community thing, whereas the main reason is failure in community centers, which leads to dilution of individualist desires. Yeah. So once these community centers break down, the both the ideas would start converging. So I think we can choose the option B here. Let me go back to the odd one out. In the 17th one, uh, despite all similarities between Frederick Douglass and Benjamin Franklin, concept of the self-made man, the two men differ in the emphasis of the relationship to other men. Okay, two people are mentioned here. Key factor in this rise from rags to riches are modes of foundation and education for self-government. This is referring to something. In his autobiography, he describes his way from a poor man, unknown of us, to a successful businessman. Now, this is someone's autobiography. Franklin creates the archetype of someone coming from low origins. Against all odds, breakout is now. I think both 3 and 4 are talking about the same because cradle to riches. Again, this is the similar kind of idea. Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of United States, is something to have created the concept of self-help. Okay, so I think uh, um, second, third, and fourth, second, third, fourth, fifth, all four of them are talking about Benjamin Franklin, whereas first one brings a new name of Frederick Douglass. Now, I think we can choose this option. I'll choose the first option because it brings a new name and does not mention about both people anywhere in the paragraph. Only Benjamin Franklin mentioned. So let me go to the 18th one. I've got 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes. Beavers can rebuild primary dams overnight, though they may not defend secondary dams as vigorously. Talking about beaver work at night and are prolific builders. Okay, it is appreciating beavers again about their dams and all. Beaver dams can be disruptive. Okay, flooding can cause extensive property damage, and when the flooding occurs, cause derailments and all. Okay, he's criticizing the beaver dams. These structures modify the natural environment. I think it should be again about the dams in a way that the overall system builds upon the change, making beavers a keystone species. Appreciative of the beavers. Beaver dams are dams built by beavers to provide ponds, protection against predators. Okay, again about the dams. I think option 1, 2, 4, and 5. Now, at least all of these are not talking negatively about the beaver dams, whereas option 3 conveys a different idea. It's saying these dams can be disruptive. Now, this is not the essence of the paragraph that author would be trying to point out. So, I would want to choose the option 3 here. Let me move on to this one. Now, this is a bit longish. Let me see if I am able to do both. The sentence can be ordered correctly. Form a paragraph. Identify the correct order of the paragraph and write it in the okay. So let me try to find the broader sentence, broader idea first. Recent communal violence. This could be a starting sentence about 2 cities. Communal violence has become so endemic to the polity of India that it has ceased to attract much attention outside its immediate area of impact and causes a very high levels of fertility. Okay, now this seems a generic idea starting from communal violence that has been facing neglect in both cities. Okay, now this is great. In both cities, one seems to be linked to directly to 3. Okay, the present climate of violence was preceded by mobilization speeches primarily by Hindu fundamentalist groups. Yet, the scale, planning, and causes behind the riots, certain change in the typical right, a change which needs to be identified and understood if we want to keep religious secret sectarianism and violence in check. Fortunately, there was no death in the violence in Bareilly, while in Hyderabad, only 2 people were correct. Yeah. Okay, okay. I think I have established some correct. One would be followed by 5 straight way. This talks about neglect. These 2 cities have been neglected in terms of the attention. It went to the fifth. There was no death. 2 1 5 in and then the 5 3 1 5 3 are a mandatory pair. are a mandatory triplet in fact. Round of fall is preceded by mobilization. Yet the scale planning and okay. No, I think 215 is sure. Needs to be identified. Okay, okay. I think this is giving me the core raising. So I would choose 215. Okay, I missed this one.